Um, Welcome to our workshop on mind mapping for information management and collaborative activities. This is just a reminder that this workshop will be recorded and may be uploaded to the official GFD YouTube channel. However, no participant information will be included in the recording. Only the speaker's slides and audio will be saved. If you are having any technical difficulties, please contact the co-host through the Zoom chat. And so before we get started, I just want to mention a few things about the Global Faculty Development Initiative at the College of Arts and Sciences. Our aim is to promote teaching excellence among the instructors who offer courses in non-Japanese languages. And so our overarching goals include things such as trying to expose current and future faculty to effective learner-centered teaching techniques, nurturing instructors who can teach content courses in languages other than Japanese, and trying to actively engage in exchange of ideas and research on global faculty development. There's a QR code on our screen. Please feel free to check that website. We do offer funding for attending faculty development conferences, organizing online events, and other development related opportunities. Our GFD coordinator, Cecilia, will probably send links into the chat box occasionally related to GFD. So please feel free to check those. Please feel free to check the chat box for those links. All right, so moving on to our event for the night. So as you can see, the talk will be about mind mapping as well as how to manage collaborative activities. Our speaker will be John Augeri. I'm sure some of you may recognize his name. He's given us many wonderful workshops. Just this semester alone, I believe this is the second of 3 workshops that he will be providing for us. So just a little introduction about John. He's a researcher and practitioner specialized in teaching and learning tools and environments. Besides managing an international comparative study of physical learning spaces since 2016, he has been running a region-wide faculty development initiative at the Île-de-France Digital University in Paris since 2009. John's also active in Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, and Oceania, working with several international associations and work groups. These include EDUCAUSE, FLEXspace, and the Association for Learning Environments. He works as a contributor and an advisor and regularly gives speeches at major conferences. He's currently visiting professor at Kyoto University. And I'll go ahead and turn over the talk to John.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you, Cecilia. Very nice again to have this sharing moment with you guys at the GFD. So indeed, today's the topic is going to be mind mapping, and maybe unlike I did for the first talk 1 month ago, I would like to start by asking you a question, a very simple question, which is, what do you know? What do you expect from the mind mapping? Because this is a concept and the related tools became quite popular and could even say fashionable since a couple of years. And I have many colleagues every time they hear that I'm going to give a speech about this topic of mind mapping that show a real interest about that. But I would like to ask you guys, maybe in the chat, in just 1 or 2 sentences, what do you know about these tools, this concept, and what do you expect to do with that? So please put that in the chat. Now, of course, there is no wrong answer. If you don't know anything or very few things about the mind mapping, please tell us so. James, mind mapping is a tool that can be used to organize thoughts, exploring ideas. That's correct. Cecilia, organizing ideas, sharing ideas. Yeah. Any other thing? I don't know. Cindy, Irina, you want to ask? Irina, it's an activity to help organize ideas. So definitely organization is something that looks pretty obvious for everybody. Okay. It was the case for me as well when I began to use mind mapping. Cindy, you would like to add something or not? Brainstorming, Irina, yeah, that's completely correct, yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so if there is no other suggestions, I will move to my presentation. Summarizing knowledge for Cecilia, yeah, that's right. So organization, synthesizing things, yeah, definitely there are a usual baseline for when we talk about mind mapping. To tell you the story about my first contact with this, and after that I will move to a couple of slides and some hands-on. Actually, I was hearing quite a lot about the mind mapping from 2005, even though I knew that it was much older than that, and I will go back to the history of that mind mapping concept in a couple of minutes. But from the second half of the 2000s, and I began to get quite curious about what was happening with that concept. And the story is pretty fun because I remember very precisely that in 2009, on a very rainy Sunday in Paris, actually, I had nothing else to do than staying at home. And I was thinking, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to try to figure out what is this famous mind mapping and what I could do with this. And one of the first use case I was concerned with this was taking notes. So like you guys said, James, Cecilia, Irina, you said organizing ideas. So I thought that maybe organizing my notes instead of taking notes in a word processing software would be a good way to try that mind mapping. So the idea for me on that rainy Sunday was to try a couple of software, select one, and to try to take my notes from my weekly team meeting on the day after, on the Monday morning. And to be honest with you, that was in 2009, and I almost never used anything else than mind mapping to taking notes since then. So I completely switched for that use case, which is the notes taking. I completely switched the mind mapping since then because it's really something that turned out to me to be extremely efficient for that. But after that, I added some more use cases that I'm going to discuss, especially collaborative ones. But before, I would like now to switch to some slides, and as I was mentioning, to give you some context about this mind mapping. So basically, the first thing that we could mention is that mind mapping is not something that is so new. I'm mentioning that because many people are making a quite I would say, spontaneous connection between mind mapping and digital tools. And actually, the mind mapping is something that is much older than the personal computing. More specifically, it's been theorized in the 70s. And it's been theorized by someone who was a specialist of psychology, working a lot on memorizing and understanding things. His name was Tony Buzan. He passed away in 2019, and he's considered to be the father of the mind mapping concept. And Tony Buzan basically stated that a form of document that is the mind mapping was extremely relevant and extremely efficient for memorizing things and understanding things because of its core structure. And the core structure of mind mapping basically looks like this. This is something I think that you already saw directly or indirectly. So this is a digital mind mapping. But you have to know, and this is sometimes surprising, that actually the first versions of the mind mapping were just handwritten. And it's pretty it's pretty interesting. I always say that in the old world before the pandemic, at least once per year when I was attending conferences or seminars face-to-face, at least once per year, I was sitting next to someone who was taking notes handwritten in a mind mapping. So just with a color pencils and doing such kind of diagram like the one you have under the eyes right now, which once again is a digital one, which is the type of documents we're going to work on today. But please keep in mind that mind mapping could be completely disconnected from digital tools, and it could be handwritten as well. The idea basically is that having this sort of branches that are subdividing, more and more subdividing, is typically the thing that is so efficient and so relevant for memorizing things and understanding things, just in a way that it's working in the same way than the human brain. I think something, that makes me think to something else, that makes me think to something else. And this is basically reflected in the branches that are subdividing here. So let's now maybe compare this mind mapping as a concept and as a document form to something that all of us know very well, which is the word processing. So this is something that we are using every day. What can we say about the word processing? I would like to emphasize on two key things. The first thing is that word processing software they're using on the basis that the work surface that we have is a metaphor of a paper sheet, okay? So basically, we have a work surface that is limited in width and length, which is supposed to fit with a paper sheet that is a sort of digital version of this paper sheet. So that's the first specificity of a word processing software. The second specificity of a word processing software is the linearity. Depending on the language that we're going to use, the direction will be different, but basically it's always linear, meaning that we start to write, and for instance, in English, we go from the top to the down of the page. Okay. So two specificities for word processing as we use every day: limited surface, once again the metaphor of the A4 page, for instance, and having this linearity. So let's now compare that to the mind mapping. The mind mapping first will not have this limitation of work surface, in the sense that virtually you're going to have an unlimited surface. There is no question of fitting into something that looks like an A4 page. You're going to have something that is basically unlimited. That's the first fundamental difference. The second difference that we're going to have is that instead of working just in linearity, we're going to work in 2 dimensions. We're going to work in the space with the mind mapping. And this is extremely important. This is extremely important. So to show you precisely and practically how it looks like, let's imagine that in a word processing, we're going to write a title like this. Okay, so the first line is the title of what I would like to write about. It's going to be our center concept in our mind map. Okay, then I'm going to have subtitles, head of chapters. Let's say it's going to be a first branch with these informations. Then I'm going to have some contents that will be sub branches of the very first branches that we just created. Okay, so it's working like this. And if I have a second chapter, I'm going to have a second branch like this, and so on. So basically, this is how it works. So once again, title of what I'm writing, center of my mind map, head of chapters, and then contents. So this is typically how it works. What can we say also about that is that the hierarchy of the text, as it's appearing here on the word processing software, is translated in the mind mapping through the branches that I was just discussing now. Okay, so instead of having a text that is more or less aligned with the left part of my page, I'm going to have the branches that are going to subdivide themselves. So this is basically how it works.
John, sorry to interrupt you. It looks
Sure.
like maybe a Zoom, a Zoom window is
Oh,
maybe
sorry.
over. Yeah. Okay.
So,
thank you. It's gone.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah. Should be better like this, I guess. Isn't it?
All
Okay,
those Zoom
cool.
windows are gone.
Okay. Sorry. You didn't miss anything. It's right now that I'm gonna have some contents on that part of the slide.
You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay. You didn't miss anything. So now on the right part of the slide, we have something that could be a mind mapping, a quite complex mind mapping with different topics, subtopics, and so on. Other interesting thing that we're going to have with the mind mapping is that it is fundamentally a multimedia container, if I may say. So multimedia became a sort of old-fashioned term now, but on the first meaning of that term, basically, mind mapping is something in which you can connect a lot of different content. So for instance, here on that branch, you could have a PDF file. Here you could have audio video content, so MP3 or video. There you're going to have an image, and here we're going to have a web address if you want. So it's very, very multimedia, and you can connect very different kinds of content in the same mind map. Last thing I would like to discuss after our first set of demonstration is that basically in the mind map, you may have understood that when we are going away from the center of the map, we are giving more details about the things we are discussing, okay? And when we are going at the same level on parallel branches, we are discussing different topics. So okay, as soon as you can have different topics in a parallel way, I was just mentioning, and as soon as we are getting away from the center, you are giving more details. So now I would like to give you a quick demonstration about all this. I have here a selection of softwares. I have 4 of them. You have to know that the mind mapping is something that is extremely rich in terms of offer of software. You have a lot of solutions that are available. It's quite different than the situation about office tools. Basically, you have many softwares. I selected for today 4 of them that I think are pretty relevant. And I would like now to show you how we can create the structure of a map, as I was just explaining right now. So I will go back to my screen, and I will start with this software here. So this one is called XMind. It's one of the most famous mind mapping software, definitely. And so I have here my central topic. So I can give another title to that now to say, okay, today is GFD mind mapping workshop. Okay, so now I can create head of chapters to say, for instance, here we discuss the fundamentals. Okay, and then I can give some details about the fundamentals to say we have unlimited surface, we have work in 2D. Okay, and I could create a second parallel branch to say we are discussing about the tools. Well, and basically there are many of them. Okay, so you didn't see the buttons I was using to do that. So for this, I will now switch to another tool, which is FreeMind. So FreeMind, it's an open source free software. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, but this time I will explain what I'm doing. So mind GFD workshop. So now to create the first branch, I'm gonna push on the tabulation button of my keyboard. So here I have a branch, and at the end of the branch, I have a new bubble that is ready to write in. So I can say, okay, fundamentals. Okay, and if I push tabulation once again, I will give more details about fundamentals to say that it's unlimited surface. Okay. So tabulation is the first key to know on your keyboard when you want to use the mind mapping. It's going to create subtopics of the topics you are on. So now I am on fundamentals. Let's imagine I would like to create a parallel branch. This is the second key you have to know when you talk about mind mapping. It's enter. So enter, it's used to when you finish your text typing inside the cell, but if you type enter a second time, you're gonna create a parallel branch. So parallelly to fundamentals, we're gonna have the tools. Okay, and then if I put tabulation, I will say many of them. So actually, I didn't tell you before when I was on Xmind, but I was using exactly the same thing. So if I go back, tabulation, and I say fundamentals, tabulation, and I say unlimited surface. If I go back on fundamentals, I make enter, and I'm going to have tools. Third example I can give you, this is called my node. My node, I could once again type GFD mapping workshop tabulation, and it's working once again. Fundamentals, tabulation, unlimited surface. And if I go back to fundamentals, I type enter, I'm going to have a second branch for the tools. Okay, so it's pretty interesting to see that among those different software, it's always using the same keys, which is pretty good because even though we have a wide choice of tools to make such kind of mind mapping, the core way to create them is exactly the same. It's always tabulation and enter. I will give you a last example. Here I am in the software I'm going to use after for the collaborative features, which is called MindMeister. So I could say GFD mind mapping workshop. Yeah. Tabulation, say fundamentals. Here, say unlimited surface. Fundamentals, I tap enter, I have the tools. So basically, it's always the same thing. And if I go back to my slides, so once again, I was explaining that when you go away from the center of the map, you give details and you can, beside, have parallel topics on different branches. So enter to create those new branches, tabulation on your keyboard to give some more subtopic of what you're talking about. This is basically the way to create the structure of your mind maps, and it's working on almost all the softwares that I know. Once again, the offer is very wide, but at least they all work in the same way for these basic features about creating the structure of the mind map. Okay, is there any question or comments I could answer so far on the chat or by microphone or anything? It's okay for everyone? So once again, going back to some use cases, what I just shown you, I think is highlighting the relevancy of this tool, especially for the notes taking, because first, it's very fast. You may have noticed that I was almost never using my mouse when I made your demonstration. Just having this combination of keys between tabulation and enter, you can create the structure of your map and just continuing to type information in this. Keeping in mind that, of course, this structure will not be stuck after you creating it. If I'm going back on this, I could say, okay, I want tools to be before fundamentals. I want unlimited surface to be inside tools. So I want fundamentals to be here. You can recompose your map as much as you want. So keeping in mind that it's very fast in terms of entering the information and having this possibility to reorganize your space afterwards, it's something that is extremely, extremely relevant for notes taking especially. I will stay now on that software. I will put its name in the chat right now because this is the one I will propose you to use in a couple of minutes to test the collaborative features. So hold on, I'm putting that in the chat. Let's go. Okay, you have in the chat. So if you want to try with me the collaborative feature, you can create a free account in the next couple of minutes before having the hands-on with me. So a couple of other things I could say beyond the structure of the map itself is that you can, as I said, you can have pleasure, Cindy. You can have different contents that you may add inside your your map. So first here you have you can change the type of font that you're going to use. You can put bold, italic, anything you want. You can put some colors. So fundamentals here, we could say, okay, it's written with the cell in red or not. You can change the text like this, text color. Okay, so you can do different things with this. You can add also some icons. So this is pretty interesting. And actually, when Tony Buzan theorized the mind mapping in the 70s, one of the things he said from the very beginning is that the mind mapping is as efficient that it's including visual things. So in that sense, the icons that we can have here, and you're going to have icons in all the mind mapping software, are pretty useful for saying, for instance, that if we have a project here, project, okay, we'll bring it here. Let's say we have the preparation and implementation. We could say the preparation is okay with a green flag. Implementation is not okay yet. Okay, or I could change this icon to use some dynamics one, which is one of the features of that software that you may find on other ones as well. But we could say, for instance, here that the preparation is not yet started. It started, it's half finished, almost finished, completely finished. Okay, so you have a whole set of icons here. You can put priorities here also to say this is a top priority. No, it became second in priority. So it's dynamic. There are dynamics icons for most of them. Or if you could say, is it okay? Here you could say it's okay or it's not okay. Okay, so you have different things that you may add in terms of icons, which is the first type of content that for some of them is very relevant. Not all of them, but some of them in the professional context that we have are completely relevant. We can also add, as I said, images and audio video. So for instance, let's imagine that we are talking today about the Titanic. Okay, I will put that here. Okay, I will say history. I would like to add nice picture about my Titanic. So I could use whether an image that I will upload from my hard drive or just having a request like this. Okay, so this one is from Google Image, looks fine to me. Okay, and I have my Titanic here that I can show in real size like this. So it could be anything else. It could be a URL showing any research poster or anything. Or once again, you can upload an image and putting that here. It's working perfectly. So here we have, once again, icon, images, and videos that you can add. Last kind of contents that we may have in a mind mapping software, for most of them, especially in this one, we have the notes here. So for instance, if I have the tools, so I will list here the ones I mentioned since the beginning. So we have Xmind, we have Free Mind, we have Mind Node, and the one we are using now, which is MindMeister. Okay, so we could say that here I want to write a lot of things about the way to use Xmind, and I want to emphasize now on one thing, which is that the mind mapping is not especially designed to hold a large amount of text. Typically, it's going to be very cumbersome inside your map to have entire chapters. So if you want to add larger part of text, actually, you can use features such as this. Here we have a note, and you can say, this is a nice software that I would like to use. Like to try, okay. And instead of having the text inside the bubble here, actually, you're going to have it like a post-it here. Okay, so this is the light version. The most advanced version is actually here with the advanced option, and you're going to have a mini word processing window that you can use to have more structured text, which once again won't invade your mind map, but that will be sticked as a note like here. A nice example to discuss about the amount of text that you can insert in your mind map is the URL, the web address. Sometimes some of them are very large, as you may know. Here, let's imagine that we want to keep in mind in our map the address for MindMeister that I just gave you in the chat. So I say mind. This one is pretty short, so it's okay for us, but it's pretty much larger than that. So I could do that here, and as you may have seen, it's been recognized a URL, so I can click, it's going to work, no worries at all. But the most elegant and relevant way to insert URL like this is to use this. You have in most of the software, you can have a link like this and saying mindmeister.com, and instead of being written, you have just to click on that arrow here, and it's an external link. It's going to open the software. Okay. You can add files. So for instance, if I have here something which is my scientific papers and Journal of College Libraries, okay, I could imagine to put, can zoom a little bit, I can imagine to add a file here. So, okay, local file, and now I have here. Okay, this is a PDF, and look, now it's going to be uploaded here. So it's going to be uploaded with my map in the cloud. And now I have the logo for the attached file, and I can click on it. And now I have my PDF, which is coming. And this is something that has been uploaded with my, this is a cloud software. I'm gonna explain that in a couple of minutes, but this is a cloud software, meaning that now if I'm changing to another computer, I can have equally my PDF coming. It's a little bit long right now, but you can get your attachments on any computer. You just have to connect. Okay, so now I have here my PDF, and I can download it if I am running on another computer than mine. So no worries at all. Okay, so many different contents that you can add on your mind maps. Any questions or comments about that? Pretty simple, isn't it? It's basically, if you know that, I always say the same thing, honestly, with the mind maps, the workshop, if you understand tabulation, enter, moving the structure of your map and attaching contents in that, okay, you can do mind mapping. It's very simple. It's super simple. So now that we have seen the basics for creating our maps, I would like now for the second part of that workshop to emphasize on something which was on the title of the workshop, is the collaborative features. So once again, in the meantime, I would like to ask for those of you who are okay to do so, to create the free accounts on the software I mentioned just before, MindMaster, if you're okay. And I will use that for the to show you the collaborative features. So I will go back on my screen. Okay, so once again, as a reminder of what we just did, and to connect that to some use cases, I would like once again to say that mind mapping is extremely efficient to have notes taking that are non-linear. Okay, you are not stuck in a shape of a page. You are not stuck in the linearity. You have the space to work, which is very nice. You can organize your ideas, as many of you have mentioned when I was asking the question at the beginning of the session. So it's very efficient for that. Second typology of use, second use case that you may imagine, and this is something I'm using all the time. James and Cecilia perfectly know that I love to do slideshows very often. I'm doing 1, 2, sometimes 3 slideshows per week. And actually, beyond all of my slideshows, there is a script there is an organization of the ideas I would like to discuss and present in my slideshow that is done through a mind mapping. So this is once again extremely efficient to arrange, to organize your ideas before translating them in the form of a slideshow or in the form of a digital presentation. And actually, when I'm giving a speech in a conference or anything else using a slideshow for the first time, my reminder that I have in my hand, I have in my right hand, I have the remote to move on the slideshow, to pass to the next slides. In my second hand, and I have a smartphone or a tablet in which I have my mind mapping, which is basically my reminder for this presentation. So it's extremely efficient once again to arrange your ideas, to organize your ideas before translating them into slideshow software. But, and this is now what I would like to discuss with you, as I mentioned, another use case that you may have with the mind mapping is the collaborative work. And this was certainly the most surprising to me when I began to use mind mapping. And as you will see in a couple of seconds, it can be used synchronously or asynchronously. And this is opening a lot of affordances, a lot of possibilities for interacting with your students, especially and to interact with colleagues in a research project or anything like this. But before doing the demonstration with you, I would like to explain you how it's working. Basically, when we have our mind map, which is created, you can delegate the management of some parts of this mind map to specific people. So for instance, here I could say, okay, this blue part of the mind is under the responsibility of Irina and Ralph, okay? This part is for Johnny, this part is for Isabel, and Cecilia, you're gonna have that part, okay? And you will see right after that you can also put some schedule and some priorities on all this. So sharing this map in a collaborative way, once again, is possible as soon as you are using a cloud-based software. So this is something I was talking about pretty quickly just before. Originally, the first softwares for mind mapping were standalone, so you had to install them on your computers. And if you wanted to share a map, you had to send it by email. But many of them very quickly and maybe sooner than many other categories of software had to turn the switch to the cloud. Why? Because basically, instead of sending the map to the people you're collaborating with, you just have to work on a map which is stored in the cloud, exactly like the last one I was showing you with the software I was discussing, MindMaster, which is an example among other ones. You have other cloud-based mind mapping software, but this is one of them. And basically, so I'm working on a map which is stored in the cloud like this. And if I want to share that map, I just have to share a web address to say to my colleagues or my students, okay, please access to the map which is stored there. And they can have this access through any kinds of devices, laptops, desktop, tablet, smartphone, anything. And depending of what part of the maps they have to take care of, the entire map to review or just specific parts, as I said, they can make the modifications from their devices. And for instance, on the bottom right here, we had Isabel who was in charge of the yellow part of the mind map. If she's deciding to add a subtopic like this, it's going to be equally stored in the central version of the map, if I may say, which is stored inside the cloud, and everybody else will see that modification. Okay, so this is how it's working. And basically, it's one of the most interesting way to use the possibilities that are offered by cloud computing softwares. So once again, now I would like to show you how it works, and I'm going to share a map with you. So for that, I will go to the software I was using before, okay, which is here, the small map we created. So for the people among you who are okay to try the collaboration with me, please send me in the chat the email address you are using to connect on the software, please. If you're okay to try the collaboration. I would need at least one person, of course. So the email address that you use to connect on that software. Okay, thank you, Irina. Cool. Okay, so now I'm gonna start the sharing. So here I have a button share, as you may see. Okay, and I will invite basically people. So here we go. Okay, so you can begin to check your email account, as you may have received invitation normally. Okay. Yeah, Irina, but just have a look. It shouldn't be a problem, even though you just created the account. Okay, so now I have 3 people. So please check for all of you the. Okay. So you must have received an invitation to access that map. And here, just in the meantime, you are doing that access. I would like to show you that here I can manage the people that I invited to collaborate with me on my map. And I can say, for instance, that Irina can edit, and Pavel, I can say, you can just view. Okay, so this is different rights, different possibilities that you can give to all the people you're collaborating with. So for instance, if you share that with colleagues or students or anybody else, you can have different rights that you can attribute like this. You can also, instead of having individual invitations such as I did, you can create a link to share, but that might be pretty convenient, especially with a large amount of students here. But let's keep it like this. So now I see you guys, Marcin, Pavel, Irina, I see that you are connected. So here you see, I see that Irina is on Irina's mind map. She just created something. So Pavel, for instance, I will ask you to go on fundamentals here and to create a subtopic. Marcin, I will ask you to create a new branch, and Irina, you already created branch. So please go on. So once again, a subtopics or topics for at least. Okay, so now I can see Pavel is here. So again, they're going to be a subtopic pretty soon. Here we are created things there. Marcin, you can create a branch as well if you want. Okay, Marcin just created here. Irina is completing her branch. So as you may see, it's very close to real time. So now we can work synchronously on the same mind map, creating things, modifying things, changing things, almost real time. Okay, so it's very convenient for that. You could also imagine, rather than to be synchronous like we are right now, to be asynchronous and to share that map with people to say, okay, please work on that for our next meeting next week. It's equally possible. But now that we are collaborating on the same map, there are a couple of other features I would like to show you that you have depending on the software that you use, but on this one there are. First, here we have a voting system. So for instance, I can decide that on the, let's go on the Irina's mind map. So all of you, please click on Irina's mind map here for all of you. And now we can vote here on that part of the map. So you could say, I like it or I don't like it. So I will vote. And here, my map is loading again, sorry. Okay, so I voted here on Irina's mind map here, so you can vote as well. And you can see who voted. Pavel and John liked it. And I can add a comment as well, say, that's super nice. Okay, so this is also a way that you can imagine to interact with the people you're collaborating with through that mind map. making votes like this or asking them to do some comments. But, and this is the key thing I wanted to show you, now we can also have real project management features. Here, I could now attribute some branches to people. So for instance, here, Irina, you have your map, so you have your branch, sorry. So I could say, Irina, you just started your mind map. It's started, it's high priority, it's for you, of course. And Irina, please, you have to finish that by Friday next week. So everything now is written here. It's the title of the concept. It's indeed for Irina. She has to finish by Friday next week, and it's just started and top priority. So Irina, please now click on the small square to fill it and to show that your topic is completed, please. The blue square is here. So you see Irina now is saying, okay, I'm moving on in my process and I'm almost finished. I can do the same thing here with the reports. I will say it's not started yet. Priority number 2, I see that Irina here is moving on. So reports here, I will assign that to Pavel. And Pavel, please, you have to finish by tomorrow. Okay, so basically you can once again give some parts of the map to different people to ask them to work on, and having this idea that there is a schedule on that, there is a priority on that, and you can interact by putting those icons that are showing how it's proceeding or not. To give you a use case of this, I was editor-in-chief of a publication during 6 years, and actually I had at that time something like 60, 70 contributors for that publishing. It was 1 issue per year, and I was doing the entire editing coordination through a mind map. So each branch was a chapter of the publication, and I was attributing those branches to the people in charge of writing those parts and saying, okay, you have to finish by then. And they were answering by showing the proceeding and feeding the small icons to say, okay, it's proceeding or not, I have a problem or not. We had a conventions to say, if you have a problem, please put a red flag or such kind of things. So once again, for collaborative activities, it's super, super efficient, synchronously or asynchronously. And this is opening a lot of possibilities, once again, for work among colleagues, among academics, but also with your students, as you may guess. Sorry, Cindy, I just see that you sent me your email. I will. Yes. Okay, Cindy, I just sent you the invitation as well, sorry. And Pavel, no problem, you could create anything you want, don't worry at all. So once again, these are the kind of things now we can do collaboratively speaking. Sometimes people are asking me, okay, but let's imagine that here Irina didn't finish what she's supposed to do by Friday next week, which is the schedule that is indicated here. Of course, the software is not smart enough to guess by itself what Irina is supposed to do. But what the software will do is that if Irina didn't connect on the map by the night before that schedule and didn't do any modification on that part of the map, which is her part, actually she will receive an email to say, okay, Irina, be careful, you are supposed to do something on that part of the map by tomorrow. This is something that you can set up in a different way. You can send an alert 1 week before, the night before, and it's up to you, but basically the software will just detect, which is quite a lot already, will detect what you can, if you didn't access to the map and do something on the part of the map that you are supposed to take care of. These are the basic features I wanted to show you. Shall we now move, James, Cecilia, to the Q&A, if you want?
Yeah, let's do that. I think this is a good time to see what questions the attendees have.
Yeah. What do you think first, maybe before asking questions? What do you think about all this? Because it's always interesting to have the feedbacks from the colleagues, because to tell you everything, some of them, when I'm highlighting those three typologies, the three use cases, notes taking, preparation for presentation, and collaborative activities, some of them take, I would like to do collaborative activities, but I don't feel comfortable to take notes because I need to type a lot of such kind of things. So what are your opinions about those use cases? What do you imagine to indeed do with the mind mapping now that you know how to create them? What do you think?